The Highest in the Room is proud to be sponsored and lit by the CWCB Expo. The show has helped build a legalized cannabis industry and is a leading forum for the entire supply chain, seed to sale. At their events, many mergers, acquisitions, and deals are signed because of the exposure they provide to participating companies, sponsors, and brands. The CWCB Expo continues to support and stand shoulder to shoulder with the brave, courageous, and committed who have helped shape the cannabis industry, evolving through many phases of stigma, volatility, and legalization. This is KymB reporting from the weed capital of the world, New York City. After almost 100 years of prohibition, the government has finally loosened the hold on cannabis. As we enter a new industry of innovation, technology, and greed, there are some cannabis professionals who have pushed through the doors of opportunity. I talk to them unfiltered and uncut. We get the real story from the highest in the room. Today's episode is a Choose Happy episode with my dear friend and co-founder of Happy Munkey, Ramon Reyes. Ramon, tell us where you're from and where you're at.
Where I'm from, I am from New York City, obviously, but I am from Uptown Washington Heights. I am in Uptown Washington Heights. Um, coming from Dominican background. My parents from Dominican Republic. I was born in New York City, born and raised, and I'm still here.
And your mom still spends part of her time in DR.
Absolutely. My mother is there half the year, more than half the year. So we're so New York that my mother works for the Yankees. Like, she's been working in Yankee Stadium since the old stadium. She still works at that now. And either she's here working with the Yankees or she's in the Dominican Republic.
Sounds like a woman who knows what she wants. So the apple doesn't fall far. Ramon, tell us 3 things that we wouldn't know unless we ask, and you can include your mom working for the Yankees or not.
What? Yep, that's one. First of all, that's one. My mom working for the Yankees. 2, I am the youngest out of 4 boys. And I know me and Vlad look alike. I know everybody says me and Vlad look alike, but he is actually not my brother. I actually have I have 3 brothers, and they're all older than me. I'm the youngest.
The baby of the family. What else?
Um, what else? What would I wouldn't say if you didn't ask? Um, I don't know. I'm a father. Um, I love being a dad. Um,
How old is your daughter?
my daughter is 7 years old.
That's amazing. You're also a blunt smoker like myself. And I think we share the commonality that we only smoke Dutches. I'm going to say fuck a backwood, but, some people will argue that into the grave. Also, I know that you are not a coffee drinker, but you are a tea drinker. So, but let's get in. Speaking of the tea, let's get into the tea. All right, let's get in it. So, the cannabis industry is kind of hot and spicy right now, as usual.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, in the dispensary, what's hot right now? What are customers coming in and buying? What do you see that's just really lit?
Well, the one thing there's a few things, right? But I'll start with this, I guess. Unexpectedly, I think the people thought that because they were going into like a legal dispensary that the prices were going to be ridiculous or some shit like that. But it's pretty much the same prices. It's the same $25, $26 eighth that you got on the street. You can definitely get it at the dispensary now. So flour is super, super hot. Being that the product now has been changing because now we got greenhouse and indoors inside the stores. Now things have been changing. So flour is still king. Um, the fact that we got different strains now, and it's not just that outdoor bullshit that we was having all year last year. Now is that shit has changed. So just weed is back.
It's back and people are going in droves. And now that there is less of the illegal stores on every corner, it's giving opportunity to the dispensaries to actually make some business. So we know what's hot, but what is there's a lot of spicy shit that happens in the industry. What burns you up about the cannabis industry?
Um, I wouldn't say necessarily the industry, but I would say the people. I would say people's expectations of this industry. I think people's expectations are really, really, really like insane. I think people um, mix in like terms like generational wealth and all these things, and then they have this really, really high expectation when you're coming into this industry, and then when you find out that it's not necessarily like that, then you start kind of like bad mouthing the industry, right? um so I'll say this: as far as New York, we are still leading in every aspect, I think, because it's just getting better. It just started 3 years ago, and all it is getting better. It's not going to get worse, you know? So I think we have been the most vocal about every time something goes wrong. So I think New York people are going to hold everything accountable. So I think people just need to be patient, and there is no patience. I think, I get it. We're New Yorkers. We want everything fast and now. And I want to be equal. You want to be. Everybody needs to be equal. Great, but that takes time. That doesn't happen overnight. And I think what burns me up inside is that people don't have any patience.
Yeah, and we're in this instant gratification era where Amazon's delivering the same day, and you can snap your fingers and have food, weed,
Yeah.
porn, anything that you want at your fingertips. And so, but it's interesting after almost 100 years of prohibition, legalization just happened, like you said, 3 years ago. It's going to take a lot more than 3 years to wrong all the rights. I mean, I know that your application had over 22 arrests, right? Between all of the people that were on your applications, 22 arrests for cannabis between all of your partners. There are still people in jail suffering and still people going to jail. How do you feel about that? That we're making money, but people are still in jail?
How I feel is beyond words, right? Because it's like, sure, me and my guys, we took we jumped in this race, and we kind of like went at it full force, and we were like the lucky ones, right, that we were able to kind of like obtain information and go for our licenses and all of the above. But a lot of our friends are dead, deported, and still locked up. It fucking sucks. I think they need to just fucking let them go, right? And I get it. There's a process to this country, and there's some bullshit, and then it got to go federally legal and all this stuff. But I think that's the real simple answer to that. I think the simple answer is these are non-violent people. These are people who add value to society. These are not people who are menace to societies. So you need to let them go so they can continue to add value to our families, these are our friends. They add value to us. So let these people go. And until they're let go, this is not necessarily uh social equity, as they want to put it. It's not.
Right.
Not.
Yeah. Free all of the cannabis prisoners, and the war on drugs is not over.
Absolutely.
People say that the war on drugs has ended. It has not ended until every single person in prison, like you said, nonviolent offenders are out of jail. Is it really an industry? And so that is such a good point. And even our own, you know uh grandfather of cannabis, Dana Beal, is looking at some jail time, at, I think, he's in his 70s, and he's in Idaho. He's
Right.
looking at real jail time. And I know that there are a lot of other people similar to him that are, struggling out there. So, but that brings me to the history of the Happy Monkey. I've got some of my t-shirt on with the original logo here, and of course my
Yep.
favorite collection of colorful ashtrays. That was kind of like, if you didn't have like some Happy Monkey gear back in like 2019, like were you really like in cannabis? So tell the real story of the Happy Monkey is something that really stemmed from you. Tell us, what prompted you to come up with the concept of Happy Monkey?
So I'll start with life experience way before Happy Monkey. The legacy market, me, Vlad, even before Vlad, me going all over the country, then me and Vlad going all over the country together. Then it came to a moment where I went on a Europe trip and I stopped in Amsterdam. And when I saw the way the Amsterdam cafes operated, that's what kind of took me, like, that's what kind of sparked the idea for me, the way they operate, right? So when I came back, I drove my partners crazy. Yo, Vlad, this is what we need to do. Jay, oh, this is what we need to do. And they all kind of like, in the beginning, they were like, well, maybe. But then once they saw what it became, you know, it just took off from there, because what it was just a weed lounge with no alcohol and a safe place where people could just come and kind of like be themselves, and they don't have to worry about anything, right? And I didn't want the concept of a sesh. I wanted the concept of an Amsterdam lounge there, not necessarily, sessions where there'll be big, big.
Vendors and all the things.
Yeah. It's just like, this fucking hip hop big dick energy where I didn't want that, because it's like, I'm a New York guy, and even before Happy Monkey, we lived the New York life. We went to nice restaurants and went to nice clubs, and we did all these things. So it's like, that's exactly what I want from my type of, like, that was like our vibe. So we wanted to make sure that people felt VIP, people felt safe, and people were able to, and not only people, and to be specific, like introverts, right? Because a lot of stoners are kind of like introverts, and they're not like socializing with the crowd and stuff like that. So it was kind of like, I wanted to create a moment where people could just be themselves and it'll be okay.
Yeah, and what year was the the trip to Amsterdam?
The trip to Amsterdam was 2016. It's when the idea was basically there. 2017, June 2017 is when I created the Instagram and I started kind of like building it. My daughter was born in the same month, so it was kind of like, like, I guess now looking back, it was just ideas like spewing out of my like soul, right? And I was kind of like just going with it. So by September 2017, we had our first event, and history.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. I do recall the first time on 38th Street,
Hmm.
kind of heading up this, like back elevator and being like, is this the right place? Am I in the right place? And then, the doors opening and kind of just being like, wow, this is amazing. And in that time, in that era of like 2017, 18, and 19, on any given Tuesday night, you could go into the Happy Monkey on 38th Street and see lawyers,
Yes.
business people, legacy,
Yeah.
hardcore trappers,
Word.
men, women, non binary folk,
Everybody.
everybody. And it was kind of this phenomenon where it leveled the playing field for everybody to be the same. Like,
Correct.
It didn't matter if you were a hardcore trapper or if you were from Wall Street or a professional athlete, like everybody was equal when you walked into those doors. And you and Vlad and the rest of the team, I mean, there's, a whole crew of the Happy Monkey folks
Absolutely.
that were there to meet, greet, and make, again, like you said previous, make everybody kind of feel like a VIP. And I think that was what really took the industry, specifically in New York, by storm. And of course, after, I would say, in 2018, we started seeing more lounges starting to pop up. Nothing quite like 38th Street, but people were really like, wow, okay, we're doing this. And you guys kind of set the standard and can continue to raise the bar by kind of creating art events within, like, sneaking in the culture without even people really realizing it. So here you are, you know we're talking like 8 years after you're having this great idea, and now the first dispensary is open on Dykeman. What's that, Addie, again? What's the
It's
address?
it's 151 Dykeman Street, New York, New York. Is all the way uptown.
In it's Dykeman. It's basically the area's first dispensary, correct?
Absolutely. It's the Inwood's first licensed legal cannabis dispensary. Yes.
And it's a beautiful store. You guys just did your ribbon cutting. I was able to come through real quick and see all of the festivities. What's your favorite part of the store?
My favorite part of the store is there's a piece called the Explorer page, right? So it's a piece that kind of gives people information, right? So when I say that, I know for me and you, it's very common. We know what cannabis is. We know where it's grown, the three different places, how it's grown, and all these other things, right? But most people don't. Most people north of 96th Street in Manhattan didn't necessarily get the memo. So they didn't really, people just still buy from the dealers or whatever it is, right? So now we have the opportunity to continue whatever we just learned in the last 7 years. We can kind of bring it uptown, right? Where people don't know anything. They don't know. They kind of just heard that weed is legal. So, and they kind of just saw that people opened up smoke shops, but they don't know necessarily, they don't understand the real information about that, right? So they don't understand that they can only walk the streets with up to 3 ounces of weed, that you can only smoke where cigarettes are also permitted to smoke, where the taxes go, what happens when you open up a legal dispensary as far as the opioid use, how that reduces. So these are just like little common things that we want to make sure that the people from the neighborhood understand.
That's pretty amazing. And the aesthetic of the store is just, it's kind of got the remnants of 38th Street, where it's like dark but lit. And it has like a vibe that, like, you walk in and you feel very comfortable and at home. How many people are you employing? Do you
Ooh.
know?
Um,
How many bud tenders?
well, I know that we just finished, not finished, but we're still hiring a little bit in Dykeman. So I think we're at like 15, anywhere from 15 to 20 people. But then we're opening in Brooklyn soon. So I don't know. That's why I'm still a little confused because we're not done yet. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We're still hiring in Brooklyn.
All right, cool. So let's dive into Brooklyn a little bit.
Hmm.
Brooklyn has been this like crazy little situation. So first you were awarded a card, you personally, right, for Brooklyn,
Yes.
and that was lit. And then they had an injunction for the Finger Lakes in Brooklyn, so no one could open there. So you were put on hold.
Yep.
Then fast forward a little more, they scrap card, right? Card like is no longer ceases to exist. So then you're put on hold again.
Mhm.
And then you reapply, you're accepted. Tell us about where the dispensary in Brooklyn is and what we can expect from that location?
So the one thing that we always gonna expect from every location, from any location that we're at, is that Happy Monkey feel and whatever the neighborhood is. So on Dykeman, we made sure that we paid our homage to Dykeman, to the Dykeman areas that everybody recognizes, or if you don't recognize, we make sure that you can recognize it and you know what it is. So we put up art from the neighborhood and make sure we include the neighborhood. So wherever we're at, wherever we are at, we're gonna include whatever neighborhood, whatever culture it is. Um, Two, we expect the same. We expect to be able to kind of give information to those who don't have any. And the same is it's gonna give you the same feel as Uptown. It's gonna be the same space. Brooklyn is gonna be a nice space. It's on downtown Brooklyn, 453 Fulton Street, right around the corners from Junior's, the restaurant. We're right next to a Raising Cane's. It's a lot of foot traffic. It's a lot of culture. We right down the block from the courthouse, so it's a lot of like it's a little bit different because it's a little bit less residential, but it is a lot of culture because there's a lot of people from all over Brooklyn, transiting through there. So we get to kind of like hang out and meet the people because that's the one thing we do. Um, as owners and co-founders, we don't just sit back, we still hit the streets. So we've been hitting the streets, whether it's on Dykeman or in Brooklyn, and we get to know the people, we get to know the business owners, we get to just hang out and kind of like figure out who's moving and who's shaking out there, right? Because that's our thing and that's what we like to do. And we kind of like make sure we get to know whatever community is in the location before we move in. So,
Right.
you know,
Yeah. Remind us what your company manifesto is. You do it for the,
so the company manifesto has manifest, and it's very cool because it kind of happened in a meeting with Vlad, and we was talking shit, and it kind of just came out. So we don't do it for the clout, but we do it for the culture.
yeah, and that is really rings true, especially, um, for your legacy background. And Vlad did some real hard time.
Absolutely. Um, on two different occasions, and it was it's an absolute pleasure to watch my friend grow. You know what I'm saying? So it's really, really cool to be like there and kind of like believing in him and kind of like pushing him. Because I can remember what's funny is his first time speaking in public was in Brooklyn. It was in the courthouse. It was with Leo Bridgewater, Branson. It was for the Source or something like that. And I can remember this conversation because we were both, obviously he's more nervous than me, but when he was offered the situation, I I can remember immediately going, you have to take that. You have to talk. It's the Source. It's not like, some like uppity Wall Street shit at the time. I'm like, fuck it, bro. Like, this is kind of like your moment. I think you should go ahead and speak, because I think people like when you speak to them in person. I think people would like for you to speak in public. So to be able to see that and be able to like push him towards that, and now see him now that he speaks all over the world, fucking London, Germany, Spain, wherever, it's fucking dope. It's Mexico. He's been fucking everywhere. So it's good to kind of see that.
Yeah. Yeah. And people really, relate to both of your stories. So you're really, really well received. And funny thing is, like, I'm a little bit of a traveler myself. And so when I'm out and about in the world, and, I say that I'm from New York, I'm gonna tell you 9 times out of 10, people are like, it is a happy monkey, and it's like kind of a rite to passage. Like, if you know cannabis in New York, then you know the happy monkey. And if you say that you know cannabis in New York and you don't know the happy monkey, then like you're not really in it. And that's just the way it is. It's, I was just upstate and I was in Albany, and I was chatting with someone and they're like, oh yeah, I know, I've been to one of the cannabis clubs in New York City. And I was like waiting for it. I was waiting for it. And I'm like, oh yeah, which one? And they're like, oh, have you ever heard of the Happy Monkey? I'm like, yeah, I've been there a couple times, but that's just the energy that you have all brought, and that it really stems back from you getting to know the community on a fundamental level, while it was, on 38th Street, now on Dykeman, soon to be Brooklyn. When do you think that Brooklyn will be open?
I'm thinking more like maybe like November, maybe beginning of winter, maybe like something like December or something like that.
Dope, dope. That's what's up. So you personally are a super creative, and you love to put together events, and not only put together events but award-winning events. You
Hey.
won a Clio for one of the events that you threw here a few years ago. Will there be any more Happy Monkey events?
Ooh, that's a good one. I loved putting together events. It was something, and honestly, it was something I didn't know we like to do. We just started with the speakeasies, and I learned from there. And when given the opportunity to collab with the Van Gogh experience, I had to take it, and we won a Clio for that, and then we won another one for the Museum of Sex last year. So honestly, I think once we get our, everything together as far as the stores, then we'll be planning more strategically, locationed around the store events, but we'll be having some like cool events. We'll have some in-store activations in between time, but like as far as like big cannabis events for the culture, making sure like we kind of break down another door or another ceiling, I'm always having my ears open and my eyes open for that, because that's at this point that's what we're trying to do when it comes to those type of big events. I'm trying to make sure that we take this shit to another level, right? Because that's really what it is. We want to make sure that us breaking the stigma is still a thing. So we want to make sure every time we do an event like that, it's to kind of like show the world like, yo, you guys are shutting out cannabis, but cannabis is the safest way to party. So, include us, and we're still trying to do that.
Facts, for sure. So I have one last question. This is not being in the cannabis industry is not for the faint of heart, and it's hard. What do you think what was the hardest part, and how did you make it through?
Hardest part for me is learning how to transition. So, you know, sure I was doing events, but we was trapping right at the time. So it was still like, yeah, cool. I was doing events. To me was like the side thing. Like I was like, this is like passion and love or whatever. And sure, we made profit, but now I had to transition into becoming an actual a creative.
Businessman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I still always kind of like want to involve the creative spirit of it. Because if not, I won't be passionate behind it. And it's still a brand that was created from love and like a good intention. So I want to make sure that that's still in the company. But being able to transition and not cursing in certain meetings, and being able to fucking do adult things and transitioning into the legitimate part of it, right? And being able to take on different partners and being able to collab in a different environment, for me was the hardest thing, because it's you can't, not saying that you can't be yourself, but it's time to it was a moment where we all had to evolve. And the fact that I had friends with me evolving with me is what kind of helped, right? I wasn't on my own, even though I did take a lot of things on my own. But being able to kind of like reach out, if I needed to reach out to you, I could, right? So these are just things that for me is what helped, because maybe the technological things shit don't help, right? For me is maybe a person. So being able to like do things for my daughter, right? My daughter helped, right? Because it's like, oh shit, my daughter needs to see me in this light, not what I used to be is what I'm becoming now. So these are the things that help me, right? And doing things also, like making small ass changes. Like, I'm not a big reader, but I found a book that I like, and I just kind of like stuck to that, and I read the shit page by page. So just doing like small things to help the transition and along the way is what kind of helped me.
You know, I think you have said it so eloquently, and I'm, you know, just as an outsider, I remember the first time that y'all, you and Vlad and the crew walked into Cannagather, and I saw you, and I was like, they're different from the rest of the people that are here. And of course, you know, similar to you, having sold weed for 30 years, my first client being my own dad, RIP dad, for believing in me. And, you know, it really just comes down to the fact that y'all took all of the shit that was against you, being, you know, men of color, and taking that and turning it into a legitimate business, and not just a legitimate business, a world famous brand that anybody in the cannabis industry knows. That is a huge feat, and I commend you for that. I'm so thankful and honored to have you on Highest in the Room, because you truly are one of the highest in the room for sure. You and Vlad have done an amazing job creating a brand that is all inclusive, and that, you know, breaks the glass ceiling fucking over and over. And so I cheers to you, smoking a blunt to you guys. Congratulations on the success of Happy Munkey and all of the future abundance that is ready to fill up your cup. Can you one last time give us the Addy of Dykeman, as well as the location of the Brooklyn store? So if people want to pop in
Yep,
and
yep.
come through and show love, where can they go?
Okay, so easily you can find us on the website. If you need to find us on the website, it's happymonkeywithau.com. It's very easy. Everything is there, self-explanatory, 21 and over, all of the above. But if you want to come physically and you need the address here, it's 151 Dykeman Street. It's literally, you can either take the 1 train up or the 8 train up. Both of them say Dykeman Street. Get off on Dykeman Street. If you want to see us in Brooklyn, you can take the A train to J Street. We're right there on 453 Fulton Street. It's Fulton Mall, right next to Raising Cane's. We're right in the corner. You can't miss us.
Where can we get you on Instagram?
Instagram, it's Happy Monkey with the U _ or Happy Monkey Goodies altogether. And on every social platform, you can find us on YouTube, on fucking Twitter, anything you can think of. We're on everything.
Yeah, and you have your own podcast, and which I've been on before many years ago, but that's just how long we've known each other.
Yep.
And then we can find you and Vlad as well on Instagram.
Yes, you can find me on my personal Instagram is Zuri's Pops _ and Vlad, I think it's Vladimir Bautista on Instagram.
And the same goes for, it's Ramon Reyes and Vladimir Bautista on LinkedIn as well.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, Ramon, this was awesome. Thank you so much. Congratulations on all the success of the Happy Munkey, previous, today, tomorrow, and in the future. This is KymB and Ramon. We are the highest in the room, signing off.